anybody think that was his last head coaching job in the NFL? No.
No.
So with a decent quarterback like Prescott and a team that's on the cusp of maybe winning the division, there's still some talent there. I don't think it's that bad of a hire.
And if I were,
they
also interviewed Marvin Lewis. I would bring him in as my defensive coordinator, not unlike what we saw with Jack Del Rio joining Ron Rivera. Two guys who've had a lot of experience. We have a tweet here before we go to the lines. This is George Lochner, who says, I like the old format. First team that scores wins. You want to win, make a stop. I also want them to move the ball back like they used to. Every kickoff is a touchback. It's not good. I agree with that. I'd like to bring special teams back into the game. I don't like what they've done with it, but I also don't like first teams that scores, because if you win the coin toss and you get lucky with a PI, for example, you can be in field goal range just like that.
Right, and it's different from college. Like, if you played that way in college, it's one thing because there are so few good college kickers.
Right.
In the NFL, for as many people as we think have bad kickers in the NFL, they can make a 45-yard field goal. You do that in college, it's kind of a big deal these days.
You're an all-conference team if you could do that, all-conference kicker. Let's go to Big Al and Robinson, who joins us tonight on the hotline. What's up, Big Al?
Hey, Bob, I played and I refereed. This is my 60th year watching football. I don't know how long he's been watching football, but you can't. No professional team's going to score 28 points a thing. 70% of the games this year, I bet, are under. But you're exactly right. Each team gets the ball and then goes sudden death. That's the best way to do it. His ridiculous what he's saying. If they score, you score. No professional team scores 28 points in overtime ever in the history.
I don't think
who's saying, I'm not saying 28 points in an overtime. Totally what I'm saying is it's entirely possible that if Team A gets the ball and scores a field goal, Team B scores the ball and gets a field goal, you can get 4 possessions into a 15-minute quarter. Right. In the regular season, which you have said you think is just as important as the playoffs,
I do.
Then it's really hard to get that 4th possession in to keep it at.
But I don't care.
I never said 28 points.
If you watch football all year, I don't know how many games you watch. If you watch
you know what? Actually, you know what? The playoff game for the Steelers was the first game I ever watched a couple years ago. I mean, it just dawned on me. The sport on Sundays, where did it come from?
In professional football, there's no way possible you're going to score that many points.
Well,
I just said that. I just said that.
Thanks for the call. Let's go to Scott and Beaver. Hello, Scott. How are you?
Hi, Bob.
What's going on?
What's wrong with the tie? Why don't we go back to the 70s?
But you're going to have overtime. I'm just talking about overtime. What do you do in overtime?
I don't think we should go to overtime.
Oh, so in other words, you just want to end it.
If it's a tie at the end of regular time, leave it a tie.
Why? What are you gaining by that except for a convoluted tiebreaker situation?
I think it's more exciting at the end of the game. You have to go for 2 to get a win, and with all these crazy.
But who's going to do that? Ask yourself who's going to do that. Who's going to go for a tie if you can get half of a victory? I think a lot of teams.
I think they're conditioned to go with the extra point and just play it safe.
Right, because if it becomes commonplace to get ties, or more commonplace to get ties, you will see more coaches coach to a tie, just like we saw in the NHL forever.
A lot of coaches say, "Oh, give me a chance to win a game. I'll go for 2." No, you won't. Most of them, 85% of them will go for 1.
Yeah, they like to say that, but it's not often the case.
Unless it absolutely has to happen. PA Ram 59 on Twitter hits us up and says, concerning the Vikings playoff game, both players were going for the ball. They both had their hands on one another. No PI, in my opinion. Just let them play. Well, I disagree. I think Rudolph pushed to gain separation. And if you look at that, as I have a lot today, and I'm sure you have too, you may think there's combat going on. To me, there was a push.
It was an offensive pass interference. They didn't call it. I think that it's ironic, of course, that it happened with the Saints as the other team on the field. That made it perhaps more of a talking point than it otherwise would be. The Saints being victim made all of us laugh. But, you know, I think the fact that it was the Saints should make us analyze this whole pass interference rule even more, Bob, because remember, the Saints-Rams game was as bad of a miss as you're ever going to see. It was as bad of a miss. So that is the bar by which everybody compares, do you put a flag on the field to? So if that's as low, the low bar of officiating, then anything that falls short of that, people are going to say, oh, it's not worth it. And that was the case yesterday with Rudolph.
But Al Riveron's explanation was not a good explanation, in my opinion. He said, we've consistently done this all year.
That's a lie.
It is a lie. If you look at the Steeler game with Seattle, it cost the Steelers a game, essentially, when Terrell Edmonds was called for pass interference.
Right.
And that was almost the same exact kind of play. All right, we have, let's see, I'm going to get this one tweet, and it's Kevin Davis who says, where's the outrage over Jason Garrett being cut loose? one losing season in 10 years in Dallas. Shouldn't that get him the same kind of tenure consideration people give to Tomlin? Well,
there's just as much outrage about Tomlin getting the.
I mean, all these guys. What do you think about Sean Payton? I mean, if you're judging it based on how many playoff wins and how many Super Bowls won, Sean Payton has not done as much as you probably think he should have with a guy like Drew Brees.
But more than Jason Garrett.
More than Jason Garrett.
Yeah.
Listen, you got to make your choices there. Jason Garrett's not a bad coach. I don't think that, but I also think the time has come, and I think in some places, they haven't been successful at all in winning divisions largely. How many did he win in 10 years? 3?
Garrett, I don't remember.
Okay, well, that's a decision they made.
I didn't look at the Dallas Cowboys situation and say, boy, there's a coach that has to stay.
No, I didn't either. He got a lot. Listen, he went through the same situation a few years ago, and they re-upped him. He came back to win a division after he was pretty much put into position where you better win a division to save your job, and he did, and he got an extension. This time he didn't happen that way. So, given
the owner and given the way things are in Dallas, I'm surprised he lasted as long as he did.
Sean in Upper St. Clair joins us right now here on the Sports Call. Hey, Sean.
Hey, Bob. How are you?
What's up?
I think we should do the old college rules and both teams possess the ball.
That's
and
what
whoever
Tim
blows
thinks.
the refs cocky poo first wins the game.
Well, I think if you're going to be equitable about it, if fairness is the most important thing, then line them up at the 50 and start every drive from the 50 and just keep going with field goals if you have to. If you're not as concerned about fairness, then you, at some point or another, are going to have a team that likely is unhappy because it's going to be hard to squeeze in fair possessions, especially into a 10-minute overtime.
On that note, we're going to take a break here. More calls on the way. It's 412-575-2600. Give us a shout right here live, Pittsburgh CW.